everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing some books with you that I think would make excellent films. Now, I don't really watch a lot of films. That's partly because I like watching films with other people. And the person who I live with at the moment, who is my partner, doesn't like watching films. So that's a bit sad. Anyway, without further ado, here are some books that I would like to be made into films. The first book is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. So The Night Circus is about a night circus, if you can believe it. So it's a travelling circus that can appear randomly anywhere in the world. I'm sure if you've read it or if you've heard of it before, you hear people talking about how atmospheric it is. It is very, very atmospheric, and I'd love to see how that is portrayed in a film. I think it will be done, hopefully it will be done really well. And I'd love to see how the magic is intertwined into the film as well, because again, it's very magical, which you can probably guess, because it's the Night Circus. The circus is usually... well, no, maybe not. There's also a lot of magical elements in the Night Circus, and I'd be interested to see how filmmakers pull that off. For example, in Harry Potter, one of my favourite things is how they make the spells, and it's just magical. Magical in itself, the magic. That doesn't really make much sense, but you know, hopefully you know what I'm talking about. So yeah, I'd like to see what can be done with this book. Also, I was thinking, I wonder what Tim Burton would do if he made this into a film. I would be very intrigued. Well, not just him, obviously there are more people who help him make the film. But yeah, The Night Circus. Similarly to The Night Circus, I would like to see how The Mermaid and Mrs. Hancock could be turned into a film. So this has, I guess, some similar elements to The Night Circus in that there is a bit of magical realism in this as well, which you could probably guess from the title, The Mermaid. So what is this about? This is a historical fiction which is set in 19th century London. I don't know why, I've just grown very fond of historical fiction set in 19th century London for some reason. And it's about this gentleman who really wants a mermaid. I can't really remember why he wants the mermaid now. I think it's because he wants to give it to his wife, and for the notoriety as well, because in this, mermaids are quite mythical, obviously, like what they are today, but some people have said in this book, oh, we have sighted some mermaids, like these sailors and stuff have spotted these mermaids, and that is what this one gentleman wants. And he finds a mermaid, and he does get all this notoriety, which is very interesting. Again, I would love to see how a mermaid is portrayed in film. I think it would be so interesting. Again, like Harry Potter, like the mermaids, the merpeople in Harry Potter, I think are really interesting. Just the portrayal of merpeople, I think, is very interesting in film. Because in my head, I have a version of a mer person, but is that the same as everyone else? Who knows? I also just like historical fiction, I think in film as well, so... The costumes would be lovely, I think. And in a similar vein to that, The Confessions of Frankie Langdon. This is again another historical fiction set mostly in 19th century London. I just love 19th century London, man. So this is a story about a young black woman who is taken from her hometown in Jamaica to work as a servant for a very rich white family in London. And the man of the household is a very notorious scientist, and he's quite horrible. He's very horrible. He doesn't treat her well at all. Franny is a very intelligent woman, and the gentleman does not want to accept that. So I think there are many important themes in this book, namely that we should treat everyone as equal. So that's why I'd like to see this made into a film. But also, again, the set design I think would be very good, and the costume design I think would be beautiful as well. Apart from the themes I think are very interesting in this. Next, on quite a different tangent, The Truth About Keeping Secrets. This feels so tiny after holding this. Ooh. This is a beautiful book. Sprayed edges. So this is Savannah Brown's debut novel, released last year now. Oh, it's such a good book. I would definitely recommend. If you like YA, definitely pick this up. So this follows Sydney, who is a young girl. I say young girl, she's a teenage girl, and her father just died. So that's where we lift off from the beginning of the book. And she's trying to navigate through her grief by trying to find out how her father died. And he died in a car crash, but she wants to know how he died in a car crash, and she becomes very, not anxious, but she keeps on coming up with these conspiracies to why she thinks her father has died. And I think grief in YA isn't really represented as much, so I think this would make a great film. And also there is LGBTQ plus representation in this as well. But that's not the only reasons why. I think the portrayal of the setting in this is wonderful. It's very dark, it's very bleak, which I don't read a lot in YA, and I can just imagine it making an excellent film, especially with the ending. I think it will have people's hearts pumping. Another YA that I think would make a very good film is Solitaire by Alice Oseman. So this follows Tori Spring, or is it Tori Springs? No, it's Tori Springs? You might recognise that name because Tori Spring is the sister of Charlie Spring, who is the protagonist in the Heartstopper series. I relate to Tori a bit, well, not so much anymore, but when I was in sixth form, this is set in a sixth form. Oh, let me just tell you what the book's about first of all. So Tori is a girl in sixth form, like I said, and she's very pessimistic, like what I was back in sixth form, and this strange group appears, which is Solitaire. So what is Solitaire? That is something we find out in the duration of this book. But basically, these pranks keep on happening in Tori's secondary school, and they progressively get worse and worse. And it's Solitaire who commits these pranks, and people are very intrigued of what Solitaire is. So they have their own website, for example. They hacked into the computers, for example. No one knows who they are until the very end of the book. So there's a lot of intrigue in it, and also I just think it's very relatable. I think a lot of people could watch it and enjoy it as well. So that's why I think these two kind of go hand in hand. They have quite pessimistic main characters, but oh dear. I think, like I said, they're relatable, and I think the endings are fantastic. And lastly, Tokyo Unisation. This is one of my favourite books that I read last year. Oh, I just love it, man. So this follows a man. He's a ghost. He's a ghost. And he's just ghosting around Tokyo Unisation. This book, again, I don't know why I like bleak things. It's a bit similar to the last books I mentioned, in that it is sad. It is sad. Let me just say that. The protagonist in this book is just so lonely, and it hurts my heart to read it. But at the same time, it's just so emotional, so deep that I was just sucked in. And I think this would make such a good indie film, because I don't know, it kind of reminds me a bit of Lost in Translation in terms of the feel. So Lost in Translation, I feel like, is a very lonely film, in that you have this man who is very rich and very alone, and a woman who is not very rich, but she still seems alone. Everyone's just alone and lonely. And it's also set in Tokyo. Where's Lost in Translation set? That's Tokyo, isn't it? It's Japan somewhere, isn't it? I can't remember. So, similar themes. I think it would just be a fantastic film. Not much happens in the plot, that's why I haven't mentioned the plot. But it's just the feeling that this gives off that I think would be a great film. So these are the books that I think would make excellent films. Yeah. Oh, blimey, it's quite heavy. Let me know what you think, if you've read any of these, if you think they would make good films. If you think they'd make rubbish films, let me know. If there are any books that you think would make excellent films, let me know down in the comments. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Goodbye!